My name is Carrie Daly. I am the head of East Sales at Volta. Not sure if you guys are familiar with it, but we have a growing network of national digital screens in front of high traffic retail establishments. So we're in front of grocery stores, drugstores, stadiums, arenas, malls across the country and growing. And the key thing that gives us this premium positioning is that we're attached to EV charging stations. So it allows us to demand premium position in front of our retail partners. So perfect segue into working with Galderma. So Alicia, why don't you kind of give a little update on you and your company.
Thank you, Carrie. Hi, everyone. I'm Alicia Criner. I lead global digital and media for Galderma. We are a pure-play dermatology company. So what exactly does that mean? We're a mix between pharma, consumer, and aesthetics. We have our consumer brand. Some of you know Cetaphil, so we'll dive into some of the cool things we've been doing there. Our aesthetic business, injectable aesthetics. I see some refreshed faces out there. I'm not going to point on anyone, but we may have some fans of Dysport, Restylane, and Sculptra in our portfolio. And then lastly, prescription, where we have orals, topical steroids for eczema, psoriasis, and rosacea. And I've been in this role I've been at Galderma for about 3 years now, leading global digital and media.
All right, thank you. And Alicia's in the unique position of handling marketing from a global perspective and also OTC and pharma. So it really covers kind of the gamut of people, of audiences that they have to cater to. So we'll kick off with, can you share some highlights from your career journey and how experiences have shaped your approach to innovation and leadership at Galderma?
Yeah, thank you. Whew, where to begin? It was a cold, stormy night. But actually, I started off my career, this is a perfect segue for Advertising Week at Microsoft Advertising. And some of you who know, actually, Rick Song, who's one of the leaders at Brand Innovators, was actually my first boss's boss. So it's nice to come back home and be full circle. Fun fact, I was on one of the teams that helped launch Bing, so it might be,
wow.
I'm sure there's some Gen Z folks like, what is that? So, so Bing is a really exciting time at Microsoft to take on the search engine world. Went over to Amazon and worked on the Kindle content team. So those annoying ads you see sometimes in front of your books or your Audible or your content, my team put together some of the targeting and content programs for that. And then I made the leap over to L'Oreal, and that's another journey I can get into as well. But it was really nice to come from the tech side, see how these the media networks develop, and then also make the leap over to the brand and client side. And there I did everything from social, search, retail, brand marketing, commercial marketing, all the different things across different L'Oreal brands. And that really set me up to go to Galderma. Like I mentioned, we specialize in dermatology. So it's great to kind of bring it full circle, staying in digital and media, but also really understanding that consumer side and now dipping into more of the healthcare side of the house.
Thank you, that's great. When we were talking earlier, I found it very interesting that your approach to all of your activations and advertising is really about the science behind it all, even though you have very consumer-facing brands. But that's your unique selling proposition and one of the things that kind of differentiates you from the shelf when you walk into a Walgreens or CVS. But one of the things, or two of the programs that you did were super interesting in your approach. So New York Fashion Week and then the Grammys, because the people that you've aligned with kind of allow you to take that scientific approach, but then leverage that into social because they are such iconic kind of people, in the industry. So can you explain a little bit about how you marry those? Because I think a lot of marketers have that challenge with being true to the brand, but trying to dip their toe into social, figure out how that makes sense, and then how that works into their overall kind of omni-channel strategy and what they do with all that content.
Yeah, absolutely. So Cetaphil, again, many of you may have heard of the brand, but not everyone loves the brand. And that's what our data and insights was telling us. It's one of those, yeah, I know it kind of works. I've heard of it. My dermatologist recommended it, or I know friends who use it, but people weren't running to our brand. It wasn't a cult favorite brand. So what's the best way to get out there? Is to really join a community and join a cultural moment. So, shocker, beauty brand at New York Fashion Week, duh. So how can we differentiate ourselves and really connect with our audience without losing our audience who's maybe not into fashion? We thought, what are we best known for? Sensitive skin and science. So for New York Fashion Week back in February, we decided to do is take over New York Fashion Week, but lead with science. And our whole theme was the intersection of fabrics with sensitive skin. So I know myself personally, I have eczema, and there's days I wake up and I'm like, ooh, my face is a little puffy. It was probably maybe the fabric softener I used, or this texture on this sweater is irritating my skin so much. So there is really a connection between fabrics, and sensitive skin or sensitized skin. So our first step was, who could we partner with to bring this to life and to showcase that? Of course, dermatologists. So again, always leading with the science and leading with the sensitive skin angle. So we actually invited our dermatologists and some of our members in the labs to come with us backstage to Fashion Week. So we got to have the models do some consultations with dermatologists and really get to understand their skin better and what can cause sensitive skin reactions. We partnered with Alice and Olivia to be their skincare backstage sponsor. And we also partnered with High Snobiety and had a pop-up event. People can actually come and get their skin scanned, get samples, and really learn more about their skin, of course, in the wonderful world of Cetaphil within Fashion Week. So it was a really exciting time of taking that insight of, again, we know your brand, but we don't really love your brand. So it really introduced a new audience to our brand and also reminded people who do know us why we should be the sensitive skincare brand of choice.
That's great. And then how about the Grammys? Just because that was a very
the Grammys. Yeah, it's one of those, you hope the celeb you're working with doesn't have one of those cancel moments. So, we can speak freely here at Brand Innovators. But it was really exciting that we partnered with Miley Cyrus to be the skincare partner of choice for backstage. And she had, if you guys recall, she had an incredible speech about being in this industry for so long and people have knocked her down, and she went on stage and just knocked it out the park. So really aligning yourself with this, celebrities and influencers who have the same values as your brand. It was an incredible experience working with her and her team. She's also known for having sensitive skincare issues as well. So again, partnering with authentic influencers and celebrities to speak about our brand.
Okay, that's great. How did that translate into any of your media moments and your media choices and media plans? Was it did it just live organically on social, on your website, on other areas? Did you see an uptick then in social following? Did you follow that?
Yeah, great question. So for us, and this is not a new marketing term, paid, owned, earned, it truly is an ecosystem. So all of those earned impressions we're getting, all that earned media, we want to make sure that we're amplifying that in our paid strategy as well. Also our owned properties. I think sometimes we're so focused on getting those earned mentions from influencers and paying for media placements. We actually neglect our owned properties. So we really invest into our website, so Cetaphil.com, GaldermaAesthetics.com, our brand websites. As people are still looking to social, TikTok for different content and information. People are still going to websites. I mean, I know it's 2024, but websites are still purposeful and still exist for a reason. It's a great place to collect data. So we have rich data on our consumer of their skin type, where they are. We can do better retargeting. We can also message them more directly too on their different skin type. And then also people research. There's so much gray market product out there. There's so much counterfeit. I don't even want to get into that conversation, but it's a great way for them to validate our ingredients and validate our story. So to answer the first part of your question, we use the full ecosystem, all networks working together, and of course our retail media networks as well, partnering with our retail partners. Amazon, actually we're in the Amazon building. This was not planned, I promise you, but Amazon was a huge partner for us. We had a New York Fashion Week takeover in our shop and shop on the page, and they reposted some of our social content as well, included us in their retail media. So it really truly was a paid, owned, earned. And last point is, again, I sit in the global role. Oh, I love my fellow Americans, but sometimes the U.S. market can be the most difficult when it comes to wanting to amplify, because we know our stuff. We're Americans. We're proud. We know our stuff. But it was really great to see all of our countries come together. We had 20 different countries participate. They flew in influencers, flew in doctors and derms, and posted the content at the same time. So again, instead of getting 10,000 impressions here, 100,000 here. We got to see all of it combined. And that with our Super Bowl campaign that we did called Game Time Glow, we saw over 5 billion impressions in one weekend. So everything, all cylinders firing at once. Science, sensitive skin, Game Time Glow, Fashion Week, all the countries together. And we're seeing that translate into sales and sentiment uplift.
That's great.
We talk about this all day. Shocker, a marketer who likes to talk about marketing stuff.
Yeah, so start thinking about your questions. One of the things, too, was, oh my God, it just went out of my head. All right, it will come back.
Sure.
No, it was, all right, it'll come back to me like at probably a very inopportune time when you're in the middle of something else. But what inspired the decision to rebrand Cetaphil? Was it this kind of challenge that you didn't have these kind of real passion consumers, that were real brand loyalists, or what drove that?
Yeah, it's a great question. When I see brands rebrand, we have new packaging. Okay. We have a new logo. Who really cares about that piece? New formulas, of course, that's interesting. But for us, it was, how do we connect to our customers better? So it wasn't just about the brand and getting more influencers. It's how do we make sure people are finding solutions for their skin? If you have eczema, what kind of creams do you need? If you have psoriasis or redness from rosacea, are people really getting the information that we need? So we actually launched our Cetaphil AI tool. We've rebranded that to the My Skin by Cetaphil tool to make it easier for people to find solutions for their skin type and understand what their skin is going through. We updated our store finder and our clinic locator so people can find doctors and derms more easily, find stores nearby to them. So it wasn't just about the brand having a moment, it's how do we better connect with our customers and our consumers and just make it easier for them to identify their sensitive skin.
Okay, so multi-layered kind of, it wasn't just a repackaging kind of conversation. And I do remember what I was going to say. So yesterday we heard from Figs, and they talked about that they became the medical apparel sponsor for the Olympics, right? Everyone was outfitting the athletes. People weren't looking at the medical field of, the medical people, the nurses, doctors, trainers, 250 of them that went to the Olympics. So they did that for the first time. Had anyone done, of course, makeup, and probably fragrance for the Grammys and for Fashion Week, but had anyone done a skincare? Did he become prior the official skincare person of the, or brand for these?
Yeah, so there have been skincare brands, of course. This is not an original idea, but for us, it's about the dermatologist. So again, not just having the marketing and the sales folks in the rooms. Hear from the derms directly. Let them tell you about the formulas, which ingredients work best for which skin types. Another piece, too, that's very important to us is inclusive dermatology. There's a few different stats out there, but one thing that sticks out to me is that residents in medical school, they often only train on lower Fitzpatrick. So quick fun fact, skin tones are organized by a Fitzpatrick scale. So Fitzpatrick 1 is very fair skin, all the way to Fitzpatrick 4, 5, and 6 for deeper, darker skin. Medical school residents typically only train or have access to books on Fitzpatrick's 1, 2, and 3. And this leads to a lot of misdiagnoses. So we see a lot of people of color, women, people who are transitioning genders, all different types of sensitive skin moments, as we call them, being misdiagnosed, which can lead to, I don't want to get into it. Forget a pimple on your face. Imagine if you have, a lesion that keeps growing. So for us, it was about working with dermatologists to get these solutions together. And we actually released something called the Inclusive Atlas. So medical school students can really see pictures, honestly. It's pictures of what it looks like for deeper Fitzpatricks. These are things that maybe aren't, super sexy marketing, but it's super sexy science. And that's where we really double down on.
Right. I think that's so interesting because yesterday, Figs was just true to what they do, right? Which is, they call them, I don't know, something spectacular humans or something, right? Because it's the medical, that's their core focus. They could expand into consumer and leisure wear, but they don't. They stayed very true. And your approach to how you wove yourself into those events was very true to the dermatology and the science. And it makes it authentic when it comes across. So I think that's an important point. Okay, looking ahead, what are some of the exciting developments or initiatives on the horizon for Galderma?
Yeah, so one thing that I mentioned that we have 3 different business units, but the core focus is skin, and that's in a really exciting time. I know AI is a hot topic. Please don't groan. I do have to give my one AI point. But we actually have an AI tool for our injectors, for our healthcare professionals. So I know it's, people look at shows like, what's on right now, God? Mormon Wives, Real Housewives. There's a lot of shows, and I see people send me all these posts of the pillowy face and, people looking very surprised all the time. But the truth and the data shows that people actually want to look like themselves. People want to look like their refreshed selves. So again, how do we get that message out to to our consumers and patients, it really starts with the doctors. Most people don't know the brand names behind injectable products, but they do know the injectors or the plastic surgeons or the aesthetic med spa leaders as well. So how do we partner with them to better inform their patients and consumers? So we have an app called Face by Galderma. You can go in and say, I think I'm getting a little wrinkly here, I'm getting a little puffy here. Can you actually help me with the before and after? So using augmented reality, our doctors and our derms actually show you the exact amount of Restylane you would need to fix some areas, the exact amount of sculpture or Dysport to look a little more refreshed, and then do a comparison before and after so our patients feel comfortable before committing to anything. And we see 5 times the return with booking, people coming for treatments. So that's how we're actually leveraging AI and AR in the healthcare side of the space, not just the consumer side.
Right, well that's brilliant because I know people love those apps that can try on sunglasses or do different lipstick colors or all of that. If you could do it for plastic surgery before you get it is fantastic.
And just quick, I just have to always give this note. I heard it probably at a brand Innovators event, and I love also repeating it. AI is not replacing us. AI is not replacing humans. Humans who use AI are replacing humans who do not. So when you go to a doctor or go to a derm, you do want to see your before and after. You would like to know exactly how much is being put in your face or what potential side effects could be. They're using AI to do this. So I just want to make sure I get that soapbox moment across.
Right, because we talked about focusing on AI, and so many people have talked about it already, unless there was some relevant way to weave it into the conversation, we didn't want to bring it in. But how are you pushing that out? How are you pushing that message out? So that's one part. And then the second part, and I don't know if people saw this, but there's this trend in, not necessarily trend, but we're seeing it a little bit in out-of-home called fake out-of-home. Has anyone seen that?
Faux.
Faux?
I don't know.
I know. That sounds weird. Sounds like I'm having a stroke or something, so I'd just rather go with faux. Where like big purses were traveling through the streets.
Giant eyelashes.
Right, exactly. So anyway, Cetaphil had done one that we had seen on LinkedIn, and it looked like it was a cloud formation of a Cetaphil bottle, and you could come and pump it, and moisturizer came out or something, and it was really very clever. But again, does that factor in? Like, what are you doing from does that just live there? Or?
Yeah, so actually I'd love to talk about that just from a different angle really quickly about the uses and the ethical uses of AI. We are a skin health company, right? We need to show real skin. We need to show real product formulas. So how can we get creative with AI and do content? We're not a makeup company, we're not a device company. So that's what you're speaking of. You guys can go just look on Cetaphil's social accounts, you can see it. Essentially, it pans to a beach. You see this giant cloud in the sky. The cloud is actually a Cetaphil bottle. Obviously, our bottle's not made of clouds, so very clear it's AI rendering. But the hand that reaches out to pump it, it's actual formula. That was an actual formula used, because we felt it was imperative to still show real product, real formulas, and still have fun with the faux out-of-home piece. So making sure we balance, what's the borderline of creative versus fun versus, honestly, being dishonest.
Right. And then where does content fit in? How are you weaving that into your plans? Content and data. With that rebrand, where did data play a role? And, we have a partnership with content now, with TikTok. We have another content partner. People are talking about out-of-phone, instead of like, how do you take that content into the out-of-home world? Where does that play a role? Especially because you need to be authentic to the science and real people. So a lot of content isn't real people, or it's airbrushed or something. So where does that fit in?
Yeah, that's a great point. And again, at Galderma, we are skin first, so we are always showing true skin. If you look at our before and afters, we don't do always average results. We usually do the average results. Usually, companies show the best results. We want to make sure people are clear what they're getting themselves into, because it is a commitment, and we want to be straightforward with that. So we're very clear about what is actual skin versus what is some of the fun AI content components. I just want to take it back to kind of, again, marketing 101, CRM. CRM is still very, very important to us. I know everyone's into AI and all these other things, but for us, it's about getting the customer data, understanding the customer, putting it into clean rooms, working with our media partners, again, for retail media networks, out of home. How do we amplify and speak to the customer directly? not just SMSing and sending mobile coupons, but how do we really understand where they are and what they need in that journey? So for us, it really is about getting the data, getting clean data, and making sure we're using it in a way to serve the customer.
Right. Okay. Great. Super interesting. I want to leave some time for questions. So anybody have any questions? Yes. Do you have a mic, or it's coming? Yeah.
I guess everyone AI'd out.
I know. Totally.
Thank you. So my question is, you talked earlier about your relationships or your partnerships with derms or dermatologists. I'd love to understand kind of your breakdown of, right, how much of those partnerships with dermatologists are just organic, right? Like, we're doing this for the good of the industry, versus they've maybe replaced or taken the place of paid partnerships, right? Would just kind of love to understand how you approach that mix with derms.
So great question. I'm going to answer this because this is where the pharma side comes in. There actually are regulations about how we can work with doctors, as there honestly should be, right? There should be ways that brands work with medical professionals. The way we actually form our partnerships is through education. So on the aesthetic side, we have something called GAIN, Galderma Aesthetic Injectors Network. So it's not just, come and get a webinar. We do live injections on stage. It actually looks like Fashion Week. They have lights, they have peacocks. It's a whole
Do you need volunteers?
Exactly,
Like,
it's the
maybe we should
volunteers.
just put that out.
And so we actually have events called Train the Trainer. So we actually train aesthetic and doctor professionals. They come on stage, give live injections, talk about safety. Safety, when it comes to that world, is about, the injection site. Is there swelling? Is there redness? Any scarring? Talk about safety protocols. So again, it's for us to work through the doctors that way. And of course, we do have influencer type of partnerships. We do have key opinion leaders, key thought leaders, but our focus is always on the science. We don't want, even as a consumer, you don't want your doctor kind of just pushing products on you. So our focus is always on the science and training in the methodology. I hope that answers your question, because if it was my L'Oreal days, I would say, we bring derms on a party bus and we go on a boat. And it's not like a shady comment. Like, they can do that. But when you're in pharma, you're regulated a little bit differently, as it should be.
Anything else? In the back.
Hi. I'm curious to understand how you think about overall spend, given the kind of marketing world we're in, especially when it comes to growth. I'm curious, like, what's the breakdown and how brands are thinking about how much to invest in, like, paid marketing, paid growth, and whatnot versus organic, as you were just saying.
So since we're being recorded, this is what I will say, is that when I first joined the company, we actually talked about this. We were very focused on conversion. Again, people know our product, but they don't love it. Let's just make sure they're buying it, right? Let's do the Walmart BOGO, buy one, get one. Let's make sure we email coupons every third send. We didn't really do much segmentation. Now it's, consumers get fatigued from that. That kind of, conversion-only tactic only works for so long. You really do, God, I can't believe I'm quoting the funnel here, but you really do need to have a funnel methodology. So it ebbs and flows for us. So perfect example, the rebrand. The rebrand was, of course, top of funnel, right? We need to get the awareness out that we have great formulas, here's why you should love us, and then working with partners like, I'll use Amazon because we're in their building. Amazon to really drive that conversion story through search. Shoppable video is a great opportunity as well. So it still is a media mix. I can talk to you more one-on-one about that and put some numbers behind it. But I would say for kind of brands growing through this stage, it's easy to fall in that conversion trap, but it only works for so long. And people get really tired of your coupons and your promos. They need to fall in love with your brand, and even more so, tell a person who tells a person. So we really shifted our model to advocacy marketing, which is actually a different kind of P&L conversation. That's another topic we could have. But yeah, it's really mastering the mix and utilizing the mix.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you so much, Alicia.
Thank you.